Okay, well, I've decided to try using my wonderful headset here to see if that would kill the latency issue with my microphone on my laptop. So, this is just kind of a practice run. So I figured I'd just talk about what I did with my day so far. I have been training my Dragon Natural Speaking to recognize my voice um, by doing all these things with the accuracy center. And if I have to read one more printed thing out loud to myself, I think I'm going to go insane. I read a little bit of my the book I'm trying to finish, World War Z, by Max Brooks, before I start um, my going through the Christopher Rice books and the Anne Rice books, which I plan on doing. And then speaking of Anne Rice, I follow her on Twitter because, Christopher and Anne Rice are, two of my mentors, and I wish you could see the really gay hand movements I have going off off screen here. Um, I follow Anne Rice and Christopher Rice on Twitter, and Anne Rice has a tendency of um, posting some really, really, really interesting articles, tweeting about them, such as like Project Reason did an article called Vatican Justice, which talked about how the Catholic Church has gone on against different issues of sexuality, whether it's homosexuality, contraception, AIDS prevention, blah blah blah, so on and so forth. However, they've covered up the sex scandal that's gone on within the Catholic Church, and which, of course, I'm one of those people. Start off with Anne Rice's article, and of course, then I click on some of the information that was provided for the article, and I start reading all that, like the 2,600 page. Did not read the whole thing. Just went straight to volume 3, which was about basically the records of abuse that these children suffered, as found in the 2009 um, uh, report by the Commission to Inquire into Child Abuse out of Ireland, the CI. See if I can remember what it's. The CI, the CICA. I don't know why I had a moment with that. Anyway, I started reading it, and I mean, it was. I don't know. There's some stuff in there that really gets me, especially when, again, another Anne Rice tweet that I read from the New York Times was about the Pope visiting Portugal, Fatima. Um, the where they had the famous Portuguese shrine to the Virgin Mary, where I believe there was an assassination on Pope John Paul II. I don't know. It says somewhere in the article. I only know because of that BBC show about the priest that's fighting evil. Like gay guy at the beginning gets skinned and made into a book. Anyway, that's where I know my Catholic references from. But he went there to protest against the fact that uh, Portuguese President Silva is going to be signing into law um, a bill permitting same-sex marriage. And so again, the irony in that, how the Catholic Church can cast off like their responsibilities and point the finger somewhere else instead of dealing with their own internal. Just they stopped covering it up and they just admitted, hey, this has been going on. I understand that the Catholic Church itself did not breed this problem, but it attracted that crowd because of the fact that they were willing to cover it up. So stop covering it up. I have my own issues with faith. I mean, I'm Christian, but. And then she posted something about, again, from the New York Times about Kenya and the Constitution, abortion, and how we have, um, we won't fund countries that are for or against abortion rights. Well, of course, that led me to Uganda on my own. Again, I click those links and I start reading, and then I get sucked in about those three American evangelical I have to do this Christians that went over there and basically incited a legal riot that led to the proposed bill of killing homosexuals. That it would be a what do you call it? Capital crime in Uganda, which, as many of you know, in certain African and Middle Eastern countries, it is. You can be stoned to death or hung or whatever their favorite method of murder and torture is. Um, so I read a couple articles on that and how like the anti-homosexuality bill is kind of being dropped. Um, because nobody wants to piss off. I mean, it's funny like how Westerners can incite these little riots of morality, yet strangely enough, the government that I do not always support has little things in place about, hey, if you do things that are against what we consider um, civil rights, we're not going to fund you. We're not going to fund your democracy. So it's kind of ironic. So, um, and then another great one that I get a lot of tweets from. Actually, he he gives me a lot is Brent Everett um, of BrentEverett.com, who is just he has so many funny things. I mean, like um, I love him. I don't watch. I mean, not that it's bad. Let me put it this way: I don't watch porn. When I met Brent, um, I actually had no idea what he did. And it was an embarrassing, like, naive moment where I was kind of like, oh, so what do you do? So I felt like the odd one out and a total dork around these porn stars. But anyway, he posted one about soldiers not being equipped to deal with gay comrades. Um, by that Senator Inhofe. Inhofe. I'll be posting links for all this stuff anyway. Which reminded me, of course, of Greta Kammermeyer, Breaking the Silence. Glenn Close was in the movie. It um, the book, I believe. I don't know. I'll post a link to Kammermeyer's website too. In addition. So anyway, after all this like GLBT issues and how we are such a sexually oppressed society in the United States, um, and working with, speaking of military, I had to relearn my military code because I figured out this dragon thing. If I want to go A or B, I have to say Alpha or Bravo for it to kick in. But anyway, so then I don't know her, but the dear Alyssa Milano had tweeted and left me things that I will also leave links for about a man that I apparently was born with an inspirational thing where he was born with no arms and legs, and then which was on YouTube, and the LAist had this weird rainbow in the OC skies called it's this phenomenon called sundog, which it's just this little blur, but it's actually very interesting. Um, where it's like this oddly enough horizontal rainbow. But yeah, so that's been my day, which is just awesome. But I just thought I'd share. So now I'll wait a couple seconds. Thank you for listening. I hope you're having a good day. Um, but I'll wait a couple seconds and then I'll turn this off just to see how bad the lag is.